had we trained the fellows to be more knowledgeable, we would have built programs earlier, sooner, quicker, faster.
We get to share different ways and help others, who want to be innovative and improve through what we're learning.
When it comes to cardiovascular care on the organizational level, MedAxiom understands the challenges your program is facing. Welcome to MedAxiom HeartTalk, the podcast where thought leaders come together for one ultimate goal: to continually transform cardiovascular care for all. MedAxiom HeartTalk starts now.
I'm Melanie Lawson, a journalist in Jacksonville, Florida, and host of MedAxiom HeartTalk. In today's episode, we will explore how to combine the best of both worlds, tradition and innovation. I am thrilled to introduce today's guest, who recently joined the team at MedAxiom. We have Anna Mercurio-Pinto, VP Care Transformation, and then also Jenny Kennedy, VP Care Transformation. Welcome to the podcast, both Jenny and Anna.
Hi, Melanie. It's a pleasure to be here and delighted to meet you.
Hi, thanks for having us today. So happy to be here.
Well, we are going to dive right into our conversation. It should be a good one today that I think we all can learn from. So we also will get into Anna's and Jenny's backgrounds in just a moment, but please also check out their full bios and the episode notes. Both have extensive experience and expertise in cardiovascular medicine. All right, ladies. So the first question I like to ask all Heart Talk guests. You ready for it?
Ready.
So why did you decide to get into healthcare? It's not a hard one. Did you ever have an aha moment? So Anna, I'll ask you that first.
Yeah, I wish I had a really exciting story. For me, it was totally accidental. I fell into it. This is now 20 plus years ago. For me, it was a timing. On my personal life, I just had twins. So I needed to make some changes to my career to accommodate the children. So I fell into it. But the one thing that was obvious to me was when I landed at Boston Medical Center, which is an academic medicine institution, it was the right place for me to be, right? We just clicked. I loved the nonprofit world. I loved the mission-based work there that they were doing. Our products are patients. Like, what's better than that? Taking care of people. So for me, it was, I knew it's where I wanted to be and what I wanted to grow into.
Well, I think it is pretty exciting because twins kept you busy.
Yeah, and they still do.
I was going to say, how old are they now?
23. And just difficult.
No, say it ain't so. We need hope. All right, Jenny, did you have that aha moment?
I did. So I actually kind of had that aha moment in college. And it really stemmed from a personal experience with my grandfather, who passed when I was younger in middle school. And I didn't really understand the meaning of that until later. And he actually was diagnosed with cancer, but in the transition of his physician retiring and handing him off to somebody else, his cancer results got missed and it delayed treatment. And as I kind of started to think about what I wanted to do, I've always wanted to be caring for people. I love caring for people in so many ways that it just really kind of sparked that interest that I wanted to help people. And so that's how I got into it. And I ended up in a cardiac ICU and thought I'd always be at the bedside. And so I kind of haphazardly fell into the administrative leadership side through several amazing mentors, and never imagined I'd be kind of in a role where I could lead from above, if you will, and work beside teams. And that's been just a really nice surprise and a blessing for me in my nursing career.
I love that. So many of our guests do have those personal stories. And I find that certainly does spark a lot of passion too, because you're doing the work for a reason. So thank you for sharing that with us. Anna, let's start with you. Tell us briefly about your background in traditional academic medicine and also what you're currently doing right now at MedAxiom.
Yeah, so I've had the privilege of working now at two academic medical centers, both part of the Harvard Medical School system, Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. I was part of the cardiology team there. And then I had the opportunity to cross the street, because it's literally across the street, to Brigham and Women's Hospital to run cardiovascular medicine there. Cardiovascular medicine at the Brigham is arguably one of the largest divisions of cardiology in the country. So for me, it was this amazing opportunity to run a very diverse clinical practice. As an administrator, cardiology to me is like the gem of all specialties, right? And I know that for some people, they don't understand that, but as a business person, as an administrator, there's inpatient, there's outpatient, there's the EP labs, there's the cath labs, there's VADs, there's transplants, there's consults, there's rehab, it's imaging, there's a little bit of everything. So it's an amazing place, from the back end, right, to grow a business. So for me, Brigham was this, this amazing institution with world-class clinicians, researchers, educators. We had a huge, they still do have a huge fellowship program. So for me, it was this amazing place to grow, right? And I loved it, and I still do. And now at MedAxiom, as one of their VPs of Care Transformation, I have this opportunity to do what I loved at the Brigham, but now do it with others. I have the opportunity to work with Jenny and many of my other colleagues, where we get to take our experience, our collective experience, and travel to other institutions and other programs and make them better, because that's what MedAxiom does, right? We make good programs better. And collectively with our experience, we get to do that. We get to shed light. We get to show other people other ways to do things, because the one thing we have all learned is there's no one way to do anything perfectly, right? There's multiple ways. So together we're stronger. It's an amazing chance for me professionally to continue to grow.
Wow, we're lucky to have you. And, I think as we talk more about innovation, we'll see that there are a lot of different ways that we can do things for sure. So, Jenny, let's talk about some of your experience and what you bring to the table. Share a high-level overview of your background in clinical leadership and also your role at MedAxiom.
Yeah, sure. I'd love the opportunity to do that. So I did work in a cardiac ICU for about 6 years right out of nursing school. And I just fell in love with cardiology. I've had several opportunities. I've been within the healthcare world for about 20 years, and I've had stepped away from cardiology, but it was only brief, and I came right back because it's just where my passion is. And I've had opportunities within leadership as nurse manager in a general cardiology or clinical cardiology clinics. And from there, I just really got some wonderful opportunities to specialize in programs. So heart failure and electrophysiology, where I was able to span inpatient and ambulatory spaces and bring teams together. And that's really where my passion is the care team delivery models, where we're focusing on not just the patients, but those that are delivering care. And so as VP of Care Transformation with MedAxiom, as Anna said, we've got so many wonderful team members and sites that we're collaborating with. But I'll say, just to add on to that a little bit, is I love that we get to learn. We go to sites across the country and we're learning from them. And there isn't one size fits all. So we get to share different ways and help others, who want to be innovative and improve through what we're learning. So it's just, I'm very thankful for that opportunity.
Yeah, it's cool. This integrative team approach is certainly how MedAxiom operates. So great to have you as well. Anna, I want to ask you, both of you all sound like you have many years experience, you with 20 plus years of experience in healthcare management and in these administrative roles. What are a few essential skills that you have seen fellows need to succeed in today's ever-changing and competitive healthcare space?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. It's something that I've been thinking about and dealing with for many, many years, having worked with dozens and dozens of fellows. I always say that, we teach we teach them to be really great doctors, how to take care of patients, but we never really teach them to take care of themselves professionally, right? We don't give them the tools to learn how to advocate for themselves, to understand their compensation, the value of an RVU, how to properly code. And fellows eventually become faculty. And often, had we just given them some of these tools early in their career, I think they would have even made different choices, right? But it's unfortunate. They all learn and they all figure it out, just like all of us do, how to, manage our retirement accounts and how to manage our checking accounts. But that being said, had we given them the tools earlier, they would have learned, they wouldn't have had to learn the hard way. And I know I've had many, worked with many faculty over the years, and often it's this like adversary relationship where they're angry because we're not paying them more money, or they want to hire a new NP and we won't allow them to. But it's because, we're the business office, right? We're data driven. We're looking at the numbers. And I don't want to make it impersonal, but at the end of the day, we're running a business and we need to work together to figure out how to make it work. And our job is really to grow programs. We want the doctors to be successful because we're all successful together. We want to take care of patients. And I often, know that had we trained the fellows to be more knowledgeable, we would have built programs earlier, sooner, quicker, faster. It would have been better for them.
Yeah, and let me ask, because I know you said, the first few years while they're working, but even in medical school, it sounds like it'd be great if they were learning these lessons there.
I think, over the years, the bedside teaching, right? We've incorporated new theories into, taking care of patients, but we still haven't completely modernized it, right? And that's, I think, part of the problem is we've been very it's a very archaic curriculum, and it's been very static, and we haven't taken the time to modernize it with technology, with business, the things the doctors need to know now. It's not your same practice from 20 years ago, and often we still practice it very similar, but it's not. We need to modernize it.
Yeah, no way. And it's moving rapidly still. So who knows where we'll be even 5 years from now. Jenny, let me bring in the conversation again with, 20 plus years and your experience is more clinical leadership. You have also seen a lot of opportunities for this care team optimization. So first, for those needing a refresher, can you summarize the differences between nurse navigator, our care coordinators, and also medical assistants?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Melanie. I mean, and as Anna said, we need to modernize how we're delivering care. The old way doesn't work. And, in healthcare, we're a little bit behind the ball in that way. We have lots of great ideas, and it's just really, how do we get there? How do we push there? And the care team delivery model is one of those ways. And we really have to act as a team to function together. And medical assistants, they're just as important. They're really key in teeing a patient up and communicating things to providers. But when we get into that conversation about nurse navigators and coordinators, there's no clear answer right now. And it's really important that we start clarifying that. So for instance, you can talk to one system, and a navigator and a coordinator could be differentiated based on degree, based on physical location of where they're practicing. So a coordinator may be outpatient and a navigator may be inpatient. And so there's really a lot of ambiguity when it comes to those roles. But when they function well, they're functioning really as the glue that holds the care team and the patient together. They're going between the physicians, the providers, the patients, and making sure things are met in terms of metrics, best practices. And that relates to improved patient outcomes and patient satisfaction. So I really call them the glue. And so if we can support them better and really elevate those roles as essential to the care team, because they are, I think we'll see some more support and understanding in that area.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about the patient experience and how when it comes down to it, that's really what the focus is here. What are some other roadblocks with integrating them and working together so that it is better for the patient?
Yeah, and there are a lot of roadblocks. As Anna said, the administrators want to see the money, why, the dollars for that position. These are really skilled people. So the positions cost money. And it's well worth it, but people have a hard time showing that value right on paper, because ultimately they're reducing readmissions, length of stay, things that are not easy to prove financially. And so that is one thing that's a barrier. It's a challenge to get those positions approved. And once they are approved, they're pretty high targets because, again, it's hard to show their value. So they are a little bit vulnerable. So that's one thing we're trying to work through. The other piece is that clear role definition, even the structure. That's a hot topic. People are asking, what does your reporting structure look like? How are you using them? And we know there's great models out there. So it's really about bringing those to the forefront so that when these people are hiring or hired into this position, currently, a lot of them are told, well, go figure it out, because there's not a clear roadmap of what they should be doing. And that's where we can really mess up, and they cannot be useful because they turn into educators or patient schedulers. So it's really up to us to pave the way and show how to optimally use them. And that's something we're working on in this upcoming year.
On this program, we've talked a lot about physician burnout. And, when we look at these different opportunities, all of this takes the burden off the physician, makes the patient experience better. But again, you have to kind of prove it and show it and make sure everybody knows what they're doing so that it can work the best way that it can. So Anna, let's talk about culture, because that is a mindset. And if our goal is to combine the best of traditional practice with the spirit of continuous modernization, what role does the staff culture or that mindset play in making that happen?
Having a supportive work culture that expects change is critical to this, right? Often, change is looked upon as bad, right? It's more work, it's expensive change. You mentioned physician burnout, right? We talk about the physician burnout. We talk about the anticipated shortages in doctors and nurses as if there's no solution for it. That's the best part, right? Meanwhile, we have, as Jenny talked about, we have all these physician extenders. We have, the nursing coordinators. We have mostly a lot of technology that we're not using, right? And that all is to help doctors, work smarter, not harder, and to take care of patients. But it's all, it starts with leadership. We need to be able to make these suggestions, and it should be, embraced, right? It shouldn't be a burden to an institution. And often, hiring a nurse coordinator is complicated, right? And as Jenny said, it's hard to articulate sometimes with the numbers, but it's working together. And it all stems from leadership. And a lot of it, this opportunity to modernize already exists. Melanie, I know it's way easier, to get a hair appointment, and the technology at the beauty salon is way more advanced than at the doctor's office, right?
You're right. Yeah.
How is that? Why is that, right? So it's, we need to, modernize, and we need to, leadership needs to embrace it and enforce it and expect it. And we're just not there yet, sadly.
All right. Well, we are going to talk about solutions next, because that does sound like an excellent place to pause for a quick message for our Heart Talk listeners.
You hear the term care transformation a lot, but what does it mean exactly? Care transformation is redefining the way consumers buy and use healthcare by developing new products, treatments, and business models that integrate separate healthcare organizations or activities. MedAxiom understands that moving the needle in CV care is not simple. It takes vision and leadership, and it requires bridging technology, innovation, and care delivery. MedAxiom experts are helping programs across the country shape the future of cardiovascular care delivery. Through education, organizational performance solutions, and advocacy, we are evolving disease management, innovating virtual care, driving the data revolution, and redefining access and team-based care. Let's transform cardiovascular care together. Get started at medaxiom.com/care transformation.
Welcome back. We've been talking with Anna and Jenny about some roadblocks to combining the best of both worlds, traditional academic medicine and modern innovative care. We've heard a lot of roadblocks, but now let's dive a little deeper and talk about solutions. So Jenny, what role does technology play in all this? You mentioned it briefly a minute ago, but does this help or hinder combining the best of both worlds?
Yeah, I think actually the answer is both. I think we did see an acceleration during COVID, right? We all had to find solutions, and it was something that had been being discussed, but we really, that was one of the positive things from COVID, is it pushed us into that space. Now, that means we're not quite where we need to be, but we're headed there. And so we really have some work to do. So there's lots of attention being called to technology. And when we're using it well, we are, really seeing good outcomes from that. And it's a combination of the technology and that care team. So it's a partnership. You don't want to replace your patient care with technology, but you want to use it to help your care teams be more efficient. And so what it does is it helps those navigators, it helps the nurses, it helps those APPs focus their efforts where they really need to be and to work efficiently and effectively with those patients. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It's really just a shift in our thinking, right? We don't have to see that patient. We don't have to talk to them on the phone. We have other ways, and it really depends on what that patient needs. So it's about having kind of a menu of options based on what that patient needs at that time. So, we do see a lot of technology in the device space, but there's room for it in so many other avenues. If we take a step and look at our advanced heart failure programs, for example, often these sites only have 2-3 advanced heart failure physicians, and they may need to be at several hospitals across their system. So it's things like, how do we get them to do virtual inpatient consults and have the tools they need? They can't see clearly through a camera all the time. So how do we accelerate and advance our technology so that we can do things more efficiently and find value in that? And so I think there's a lot of good work that's being done. We see, a lot of conversation and great products coming out that do help those care teams really optimize. But we also have to find those nice ways to complement that with our patient care. And it does also, make it a potential hotspot is we're putting too much onto our care teams. So we also have to be realistic about how we're using the technology and that we don't overwhelm our staff, because they are in a pretty, high state of burnout now. So all these kind of care team models and technology are really meant to bring the teams together so that they can focus their attention on what needs it the most at that time, and then how we integrate that with appropriate patient care.
Yeah, it's available. It just has to be used for good and not evil, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Anna, what practical steps can cardiovascular groups take to ensure their fellows succeed in integrating the business side of medicine into real world practice? You talked about that earlier, that, the training hopefully could come just a little bit earlier. And then once you have it, how can you make that work together?
Yeah, I think the first step is just acknowledging, right, that this is important, that it's missing, and that it needs to be incorporated into their training. It's we're not talking MBAs, we're talking just basic business financial literacy, right? Understanding the value of the RVU, understanding how to dissect a P&L, a profit and loss statement. These are all it's all the data in the back end that we keep to, monitor what's happening in the business. And they need to understand the variables that drive their compensation that allow them to build programs. So I think it's acknowledging it, doing something about it. And by doing something about it is, what are we going to do to make sure that the fellows get the education? I'm incredibly fortunate to be working with Wharton on a business literacy program for fellows. And it's, and I'm sure, right now, I don't know of any other programs like this, but I'm sure there's other things out there. And it's, allowing fellows to participate in these programs until they're able to incorporate it into their own curriculum. I think it's important for the future of healthcare.
I love that. All right, so I feel like I need some Star Wars music for this next question. But let's go back to the future. Close your eyes for a moment and think, about what medicine looked like when you entered the field. So we're going back 20 years and just pushing forward, and now activate that flux capacitor and travel 20 years into the future. Okay. All right, take a moment. Are you there? Are you with me? All right. So Jenny, I'll start with you. Describe 1 or 2 significant changes in traditional academic medicine that you really are hoping to encounter in this future.
Yeah, and I think we talked about one of them already, is the technology. I think we're going to be in a really good place in the next, hopefully even before 20 years, but I think we'll be really efficient and leveraging it in a really beneficial way by that point. The other thing I'd like to see, along those lines is incorporating different care settings. More, the hospital is one area, but it's not the only area, right? We have hospital at home models and other models that we really have to think about innovation. We can go to patients. They don't have to come to us every single time. So I really hope we get to a space where we can be, in patient homes where there's comfort and a space for them to heal. And so I'm really excited about the future of healthcare.
Yeah, that is exciting. And I know we've talked about, this home care and how effective that is for people to be able to be in their homes. And they do better when that happens. So I love that idea too. All right, Anna, same question. 1 or 2 significant changes in traditional academic medicine that you are hoping to encounter?
I just need to first verify that I haven't aged 20 years too, right?
No,
Okay.
you're exactly the same.
So, it's an interesting question. I think, it would be fabulous to look ahead, and it's all about preventative care, not episodic care. In cardiovascular medicine, it's really episodic care, right? All those heart attacks that are coming through the ED, right? It would be amazing to just talk about the preventative care, right? And using, as Jenny said, all the technology, all the resources to monitor patients in real time, right? And all of these extenders around the physician can help with that, all of that data collecting, right? So that we can, and we should be able to, we have the ability, to, eliminate high cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure, so that ultimately, there's a lot less heart attacks. We should be able to utilize technology to do that.
Well, that kind of leads us to this final question, because it really is all about the patient. When we think about some of the changes we've talked about in this podcast, how in general do they improve the patient experience? And especially when we talk about technology, there's so many opportunities to do that.
We need to make healthcare easier, right? It's a complicated process, and sadly, the older people are, the more complicated it is for them, and it's more complicated for them to understand. So we need to make healthcare easier so that patients are more engaged. They feel that they have the ability they're empowered to take care of themselves, and be more involved. But it's up to us to give them the proper education, realistic education, because often, it's too complicated, right? And give them tools. There's, again, all back to technology. There's a ton of remote monitoring devices out there, that they should be able to actively choose how they want to be monitored and send that data in without having to call. Often patients are intimidated to ask what they think are dumb questions to their doctor. You would take off a lot of that pressure when you're, maintaining their health remotely, right? They feel more comfortable asking questions. They're not intimidated. They're more active. They're more involved, not only in their own health, but the health of their spouses, their partners. So, and ultimately, I hope this also decreases the cost of healthcare, right? Because it's not all this episodic care, but it's, a little bit, every day, right? Helping people take care of themselves, patients. And that's what we should be doing. That's what we should be aiming for.
Yeah, no doubt. Jenny, same question to you, thinking about the patient experience and making it better through some of what we've talked about today.
Yeah, I think, as Anna said, we need that easy button. It's, healthcare is really clunky right now. And unfortunately, it's a huge source of frustration. And when you're not feeling well and you're dealing with some really serious things, you should not have to go through the frustration and stress. And so we need to make it easier for our patients, and we need to make it, we love to say patient centric, and we're trying to. I think hearts are in the right places, but we've got to actually carry that through and support the patient. And around that, we've got to support our care teams, our providers, our nurses, APPs, MAs, every care team provider, because they need to be taken care of to be able to feed that into their patients. And being proactive about our care instead of reactive, as Anna said, is just something I really would love for us to see. We just really need to ease the burden of how we're working in healthcare and work, smarter, not harder. And as complex as things are, if we don't make a shift, it's not going to get easier. So at the end of the day, I think all these things are really exciting. We're just in a really time of learning and how we can optimize those to really support our care teams and the patients.
Yeah. Anna, Jenny, I like your 20 years into the future. It looks bright, and we haven't aged a bit, which is another good point too.
Perfect.
Thank you all so much for sharing your time and expertise today on MedAxiom HeartTalk.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Well, that is it for this episode. If you liked it, please tell your colleagues and let them know that they can subscribe to MedAxiom Heart Talk on Apple, Google, or wherever they get their podcast. Also, if you'd like to send us a note directly or, of course, suggest a topic, email us at hearttalk@medaxiom.com. Thank you so much for listening.